This is sort of the last meeting of the 2021 committee and sort of the first meeting of the 2022 committee. Although, oh good, Amanda's here too. I'm glad to see that. She'll be the exchange member into the 2022 committee. And unfortunately, we'll be losing Dan, who's been a great member of our committee. But they'll move on to bigger and better things. Are there any changes to the agenda this morning? We do have a advisory board appointment application that I for the Hillview Road Landfill Committee. Put that on at some point toward the end. Anything else, Katrina?
Nope.
Do we have any public comment this morning?
I have not received any.
Don't see anybody in chambers. As far as chair's report, it's simply we debated whether to hold this meeting or not, but I thought it would give us a good opportunity to begin talking about our goals, particularly since we're going to be having in the 2022 committee some new departments or agencies reporting to us. So I think we're going to need to talk about how we're going to move forward with those agencies particularly. Why don't we go to Lisa and see if she'd like to talk to us.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just have a few brief updates of note for this committee. The American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds, the first report on that is due at the end of this month. And we are looking at our county admin budget staff, our budget analyst, Samantha is preparing that report. And that report will detail any expenditure that we've made toward any of the projects that we funded for ARPA. And notably for this committee, about 75% of those funds have been allocated toward capital projects. We've spent very few of the funds yet, but we're compiling the information and really learning how to do the reporting. It's the first report, and details from the Treasury have been slow to come, but they're bombarding us with information now mid-month for the first report due at the end of the month. So we're working on that. I believe that the only project where we've expended ARPA funds are one highway project. So we're working on that. And the other item of note, the closing on the 300 and 308 Tioga Street properties is coming right up. I believe it's February 14th. And we have already earmarked $3 million in fund balance for the purchase of these properties. So I'm going to be convening several departments who are involved in that purchase, namely the finance department, county attorney, facilities, to get together tomorrow to talk about that closing and purchase. And the other piece of that is that the current tenants in those buildings will be able to lease the space back to the county for 2 6-month periods. So we will be working through those details as well. And then finally, departments are now submitting to county admin their goals for 2020 by the end of this month, and we will be sharing them back out with committees for the February meeting so that you all can see what are on the department's plates and work plans, and they can align with the committee goals. So more to come on that for February. I think that's it for me.
I just wondered on the Tioga Street property, will there be an agreement, or will the terms be in the deed, or how is that going to be handled? I'd be kind of interested to see the wording on this.
The lease agreements, yeah,
The carryover about occupancy after closing.
the current tenant with the current tenants. Yes, Jonathan had drafted those lease agreements for the current tenants, and we will be entering into those lease agreements with them at the time of the closing.
There's got to be something in the purchase contract or something that talks about it for the time of closing, because I don't know if anybody else is interested, but I'd be kind of interested in seeing that language.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions or comments for Lisa? Yes, Lee.
Just trying to get up to speed on that downtown building project. So if you've got 2 6-month extensions, is there kind of a timeline involved as to when something might transpire? Is it envisioned that the county would start some type of construction or movement into those buildings in a year or so?
Well, I think that my guess is that would be the work of this committee to determine the timeline and pace, but this would be the opportune time for design while we will hold title to the properties, but we won't be able to do anything with them for at least another year while the current tenants, have the lease agreements.
Maybe that's part of your goals for the next year, Mike. I might have jumped ahead too far.
Well, I think we're going to talk about that because there will be no downtown facilities committee this year. That's been defuncted, if that's a word. And so if that job has come over to the F&I committee, and we're certainly going to have to talk at some point about how we proceed with that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just want to acknowledge that we've got Barbara and Aaron and Laurel and Jeff all here this morning, department heads, and we appreciate it. Barbara, I understand that you're not going to be with F&I next year. Your department is being shifted over to planning, I believe, and that's going to be kind of unusual. I think it's all your department has always been with the Public Works or F&I over the years, but we understand there are lots of exciting things that you can do with the planning committee as well. So just want to acknowledge that that's going to change. We'll miss you, but we know you'll do fine over there as well.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I did last year is there were things that the planning committee wanted to hear about in terms of environmental and waste reduction issues. We'd be more than happy if you wanted at some point down the line to give you an update on our contamination study that we've done for years. And I know the committee has appreciated it. So we'll keep that in mind, and I'll work with Anne, so that you're getting information that you won't want to miss.
That'll be helpful, and maybe at some point you can just come and give us an update on how you're doing.
Yeah, why don't we plan to do that mid-year?
That would be possible.
I'm sorry, there's a new puppy in our house, squeaking toys. I'm going to put myself on mute.
Let's go to Jeff Smith, Highway Department. We have an information item, your capital payment summary, but we don't have any resolutions. But do you want to talk to us about what's been going on, especially with the snowstorm?
Sure. Be happy to. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm actually at a state association conference in Saratoga, and I stepped out of this is our last day here, and it's our business meeting, and I got permission to step out to join here. But we found out, I sent Lisa some information this morning in the the governor's proposed budget. Some of the early numbers that Governor Hochul, she is showing in her budget is maintaining and funding all the programs through the CHIPS program that they did in 21, and then an additional 100 million in a new program called Fill the Potholes, or Let's Fill the Potholes, or something like that. There's not much known about that right now as far as how it's going to get programmed into what level of funding each county is going to get, but we expect that they'll use the same CHIPS formula, and it'll be broken up the same way as the other sub programs under the CHIPS umbrella. It's good news. A lot of times we start with the executive budget at a deficit, and through advocacy, our association needs to really work with a lot of members and letter writing and meetings and things, and try and urge them to have the Senate and legislature submit their budgets that at least acknowledge increases. So it looks like it's a good place to start, and we're very happy to see that that's the case. The snowstorm went well. I think we were well prepared. I always say the weather forecasts are so accurate now, and it really makes our jobs much easier. There are times that they get it wrong, we get more, we get less, that sort of thing, but usually the onset and timing is pretty accurate. And knowing it was coming in the evening, we had a couple of people come in for a night shift, and then we're able to plan a whole crew to run all of our routes, come in at 3:30 a.m. on Monday to take care of the rest of the snow. As the afternoon progressed, I think the temperature helped us a lot. The roads really kind of bared off. And it was really just a kind of a average regular snowstorm. Nothing as far as accidents or mechanical breakdowns to report. Everything, that side of it, everything unusually went well. Normally we have some breakdowns, but no, everything went well. The crews did a great job, and it was well coordinated.
I'm just noticing that the capital payment summary is really out of Barbara's department, I believe.
There was a little mix up if you look, but I think that's in the minutes from last year. It did confuse me. I think, I'm not sure, but I have.
Says it's for the recycling solid waste upgrades.
Well, what I have there is a weights and measures one right on the top. Yeah, you're right. And then I have some transfers to balance. Kind of, we do this every year, end of year budget transfers to kind of make whole all those little sub line items in our budget, transfer things around. There's some that are in, as you know, our budget's kind of broken into two pieces. We have our highway budget and we have our road machinery budget. So that's why there's a few pages, because we're balancing out both of those budgets under the highway.
Those are information only. I think we're talking packet page 18.
Yeah.
Jeff back to his other meeting. Are there any questions on any of these adjustments? And
yeah, I just had one. There was, I understand at the end of the year, of course, you have to shift things around depending on, various things. One was for telephone. Let's see, trying to find it now. Okay, on packet page 21. 6,500, the second line there. So did you get new telephones or something similar?
I see a telephone one, but it's going to departmental equipment. So I'm looking for the one you're specifically talking about here.
For us, it's packet page 21.
It's from automotive supplies to telephone.
Right.
Okay, that's in highway. No, but we typically, we have some of our telephone cost is of our Verizon through state contract, and we have GPS in all of our vehicles. And I'm expecting that it ran short because of that, so we had to pull some funding over. I could check more into that to really get a defined answer, but I would expect that it has to do with just next year, we need to put more money in for telephone for next year. Our Verizon bill varies. We did not get new phones. If a phone breaks, we replace it, but we didn't get new phones. We never would. It wouldn't just be a $7,000 expense for a group of new phones. We wouldn't have done that. It would be more of just a monthly billing, and we've been running a deficit as the year went on, and now we're getting it balanced out.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just not having any context here, just one, I don't know if you have $100,000 phone bill for the year and so that this would be minor. I just wasn't sure.
Maybe you could check that and let Ann know about what the details
Yeah.
are. Is that
Thanks.
all right?
No hurry. I was just wondering.
I'll do
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Anything else, Jeff, or for Jeff? Before we let you go back? Go ahead. Jeff, did you freeze? I think you froze. You froze for a minute.
Okay, I see it's getting unstable. I will be answering Dan Klein's emails either this afternoon or tomorrow. He asked me a couple of questions. I just wanted to let him know.
All right, Jeff, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for breaking from your meeting and enjoy your conference. It froze again. Okay. Let's jump back to Barbara if we could, because I do think that capital payment summary is out of her department.
It looks like.
Thank you. Yep.
Are there any questions? This is on packet page 3 and 4. Are there any questions about that? Barbara?
I don't have a question, but I thought it would be helpful to the committee for me to explain one of the bills. And I'm looking around, there's some new people. The bill that you see about the capital project construction from Casella that oversaw that capital improvement. The amount was $1,094,000, and we came in slightly under budget, and the job has been completed. The permit has been issued, the operation permit for that has been issued. All the certifications are completed, and I'm happy about that. We didn't do the paving. That's still in the capital budget. The bid is going to be issued probably in March, and work is probably going to start around May, June, depending on when we come for approval. So I just wanted to let you know it's not full paving. It's paving areas that have suffered greatly over the years that could result in problems for our customers. So I wanted to just let you know about that. The other bill that you see for electric, that was part of the original Casella construction, but we took it out of there. We felt in talking to Arel that we would get a better job if Arel was overseeing that work related to the system. Arel, is there anything you wanted to say about that project?
You're muted.
Yeah, I think we work well with solid waste management, and
I know
think
we had a great job, didn't we?
yes, and working with Scott Nostrand, their engineering consultant. And I think in the end, by having, facilities involved in the fire alarm system upgrade was the right decision. We found other things that could be improved, and we've done those things. And now we've tied it into the larger agreement that we have with the vendor that services all our other buildings as far as the fire alarm system. So I think in the end, it's been a better end result with the fire alarm system. And also that way, as far as servicing, since we have so many buildings under the same vendor, they're down here often. And so I think as far as response to make any improvements or testing on the system would be much better than what they may have had before.
So I guess there will be a final payment resolution coming forward on the Casella bill. And I assume that will be coming to planning rather than to this committee. So, and we're going to hand it off to you, I guess.
Get the tail end of it and we move on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Klein.
I just want to tell a quick story. Within the last month, I got contacted by some residents of Danby on Eastman Hill Road. It's like the farthest corner of the town. You have to actually go out of the county in order to get to their residences. And they had to have their recycling being taken care of by Tioga County. But as some of us remember, Tioga County stopped their site recycling program a year ago. So they contacted me, I contacted Barb, and 24 hours, she solved the problem, and they now have recycling service at those two houses. So thank you for the quick and amazing constituent service.
Well, thank you for actually reaching out to us. I think one of the issues that occurs is that sometimes I don't hear about these things and I can't help. And I want to thank my staff. Seth Dennis is in charge of the recycling collection. He did a little research and he was right on top of it. And Dan, once again, you're really good at reaching out if there's any issues that you want to see solved. So thank you very much.
And Koreman.
Thank you, Barb. I just want to thank Leo and Nancy Webster, who helped get me some reusable bags for some of my constituents. Some of them I went and helped pass out the other day at a low-income senior housing. And at the timing, we coordinated the timing with distribution of N95 masks, so that in each bag they had a mask, and also the facility was able to get some COVID tests, so that they're going to keep in the office. But we are able to combine together with the manager. We put a note in there where the bags were from, and the tests and the N95 masks. So it was really nice to kind of distribute that all together. So thank you. Please
thank
extend
you.
my thanks.
And just for the new committee members, the county passed a resolution that required the stores to charge 5 cents for paper bags. And that money goes to the state, and then the state issues checks, and then we provide recycled content, great bags for people who qualify for low-income benefits. I shared with the committee late last year the list of where these are being distributed. Anne is providing us with yet another good example of knowing like certain apartments that qualify for low-income assistance. And she went ahead and we have now, we've added that apartment to the list. So if any of you want to hear more about this and you have something in mind for where we can distribute, please contact me directly and I'd be glad to help you with that.
Okay. Lee.
Just a question, Barb. That was the first year with the 5 cent return on the bags. What did Tompkins County see back out of that? Any idea?
I don't know yet. Oh, what did we see in terms of dollars? $36,000 roughly.
Really?
Yeah, but that number, you realize what's going to happen. I mean, more and more people are going to be shifting and have been shifting. And I'm looking forward to the state providing some statistics probably in the spring. But so we've only spent about 9,000 so far. And, that'll continue through the year. But, the main thing for the first year or two is establishing the locations where these bags are going to go. And, what I can do maybe, and Mike, it's up to you, if you wanted me to share the report that I gave to this committee at the end of the year about reusable bags and where they're going, I'd be happy to do so.
I'm sure we'd be very interested to have that, yes.
Okay, I'll take care of that. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Barbara.
Yep, have a good day.
Let's go and ask Aaron. Aaron, would you like to report to us? I see we've got a information item, a budget transfer.
Yeah, good morning. How's everyone doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I just wanted to join the meeting as a precaution in case anybody had any questions about my transfers.
We're looking at packet page 16 for the transfers. I have a question there. What is a 150-gallon prover?
That is a volumetric device used to test the metering accuracy of vehicle tank meters, which are the vehicles used to deliver home heating oil. So it's a pretty serious thing to make sure people are getting what they're paying for.
So it's
And based on how, what's that, Mike?
it's a piece of electronic equipment to measure with?
Nope, it's not electronic. It's basically just a really big stainless steel tank. It's non-conductive, and that's to help ensure dissipation of static electricity to minimize the effects of static electric discharge or spark and explosions. So it's definitely a safety factor. And plus, with the higher liquid volume capability of the prover, it allows me to test to a tighter tolerance the accuracy of these meters.
Thank you for enlightening me. I didn't know, I've never heard of that before, so I'm glad to learn about it. Any questions for Aaron this morning? And
Thanks. So Aaron, does that piece of equipment fit into your vehicle?
Nope, it's actually standalone on its own trailer. It's got caps to prevent foreign object debris from getting inside it. Of course, you don't want to contaminate anything that you have to transfer back into the tank that it's transferred from, not to mention all solids and other particulates. The trailer basically just has to be stored. It's its own thing. It's not enclosed like the prover that I have now in its own enclosed trailer. It's the biggest impact and my want to purchase this piece of equipment is the impact it would have on consumers for getting their home heating oil delivered. And of course, everybody's aware of where the cost of fuel is going. And it's one of those necessary things everybody needs to maintain their comfort in their homes. So I think that the importance of it all and the impact it has on the consuming public justifies increasing the department for a better capability.
Sure. And a follow-up question, if I could.
go ahead.
So thanks. So is that only companies based in Tompkins County, that you don't do anyone that just delivers in Tompkins County?
It's essentially the vehicle tank meters that are primarily stored in Tompkins County is how the wordage is stated. However, there have been a few instances where there have been transfers from other areas into this county, and just because it's based on when I'm doing these inspections and testing, and most of the time it's based on when these vehicles are repaired for whatever reason, and their testing for wherever the vehicle has been stored at principally has already been done in past, and they know I'm scheduled here to do testing for the same company at a different location. A lot of times we'll take that vehicle tank meter over to my county, and then I'll test it, and everything's still on the up and up.
Okay, and that's for, so that's for just fuel oil?
Yes, and the state has their own approver for testing propane delivery trucks. I don't do that.
They do that. And do you do the biofuel mixes?
No, I don't do that. The biofuel stuff, that'd be more for fuel quality testing, ensuring that you have the proper amount of cetane. You have low sulfur content for highway diesel, ensuring that you have the proper octane ratings in the fuel that's sampled based on what you select at the pump, whether it's 87, 89, 93, or what have you. Is to ensure that you're getting the appropriate octane that you're paying for. And that's actually a program I'm interested in looking into to expand my department, possibly next year.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, man. Thank you.
Anything else for Aaron this morning? Aaron, you're our major consumer protection department. We appreciate the work you do.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I'm going to go over to Arel Morrow. Arel, would you like to speak to us this morning? Tell us what's happening with your department.
Okay. Well, we hit the ground running this month. It's been extremely busy. Staffing wise, I'm down one key person, which is Alan Lockett, our deputy director. He's been out for several weeks. He was diagnosed with cancer, and so he's undergoing treatment. Good news is it was caught early, stage 1, and the prognosis is excellent, that they can treat it and he should be cancer free. I think that the tough news is we miss him greatly. I miss him greatly. He was very involved in our operations side, so I've been busy on both, doing operations and also handling capital and managing the department. But he's doing well. He's done with treatment, and so it'll be several more weeks before we see him, but that's on the staffing side. Also, I wanted to share that as far as COVID in our department, 31% of our staff since the beginning of December have tested positive for COVID. Most all have been very mild cases, but also that's been a challenge as far as staffing and responding to maintenance and providing the services to county departments. But we've been able to do well as far as meeting our providing services to the departments. I will update you on some large capital projects. The main courthouse transformer project is essentially done. You recall that back in June, we lost one of 2 interior transformers, and so we were able to move quickly and provide temporary power to the building. And through improvements, we installed the exterior transformer that you see right now at it's on the northeast corner of the main courthouse building, and we have shrubs around it, so it actually looks better to me. I don't know if you recall the shrub that was there before, but it really hid the corner of the building. Now you can actually see the cornerstone that says 1932 of when the building was built. So I think they've done a wonderful job. Very soon, I've been talking to Justice Administration. We should be getting the final invoices to submit that to our as an insurance claim to our carrier. Other larger projects that we've talked about before, the elevator modernization project started beginning of the year. Last week, we started at the Human Services Building, 2 elevators there. That will be a 12-week project. We've already taken down one of the elevators, and they'll be working that for probably the next 5 weeks and then switch over to the elevator 2. Next week, we're starting the elevator modernization at the old jail. It's a separate crew than the one that's working at the Human Services Building. And that, unfortunately, is only one elevator that exists there. So that building will not have an elevator for 6 weeks. So I know that we've met with the departments at the old jail. They're well aware of that, but any of legislators, if you do go there to meet with any departments there, just be aware that starting next Monday that you will have to use the stairs and a little more exercise as you do that. So wanted to make you aware of that. After that, old jail and human services are done, then we'll move over to the main courthouse. That will not start until the beginning of March. And then the last elevators to be done will be the mental health building, 2 elevators there. Will be starting end of March through end of June. So that's the elevator project. Also the green facilities capital project. We've started the engineering phase of that, and they started engineers on site day before yesterday, walking through all of our county buildings. And so they'll be doing that this week and possibly into next week. So that's as far as report on the green facilities project. As far as the last couple of weeks with the snow and the extreme cold, that also has been challenging. This long weekend, I had to come in most all of Saturday, and also had to call in other staff just for cold calls where we had potential of freezing in certain areas, and also just snow removal that we were able to manage well. And lastly, yesterday, County Administration Jesse, our risks manager, asked me to accompany the, the insurance risk assessor to walk through certain buildings where the public tends to go to the most. And so we walked through the old jail, the main courthouse because of the courts, the mental health building, the human services building, and then they met with highway. But I think the good news is that the last time I did the walkthrough with the same individual, it was 5 years ago. We have made several improvements that hopefully will, from the last visit, it affected positively our premiums. And my expectation is that we will have a similar result this time. They were very impressed with the safety and security features that we've added to all our buildings as far as exterior security cameras, access control, where most of our doors were able to control through, where you use a fob. Also the lockdown buttons that we have in almost all our buildings, where if there's an event of any sort, similar to what happened at mental health about a week and a half ago, that you can lock down the doors to the building. We have panic buttons. The legislature has panic buttons, but many of our buildings where you have a lot of interaction with the public, we have panic buttons that will notify the police immediately. So those types of improvements that we've made, this individual is very impressed with those. And so that was good to hear. And that's really all I have to report, unless there are questions that members of the committee have.
Hi, thanks. Arel, I just wanted to say I'm sorry to hear about Alan, and I'm glad to hear that he's doing okay. So send him my best and our best. So thank you for the report as well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, I would echo what Amanda just said. Please send our best wishes to all of your staff, ones that suffered with COVID, and certainly Alan. And we're pleased with a good report. And we think about all of our employees and certainly your employees as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll let Alan know.
On the transformer project, do we still have an inside transformer as well as the outside one, or did we get rid of both of them? Oh, you're muted on me, Arel.
No, there are no transformers in the building anymore. The 2 have been removed.
We took them both out.
Yeah, I wanted to show you the pictures, but you called me too soon. I was thinking I was going to be a little later to show you the before and after pictures, but I can do that next time.
That's fine. You did show us some pictures of the past of those transformers.
Right.
And I do think that when they reconstructed the landscaping and things, it looked very good afterwards. Dan's our expert on that. I think I see him nodding over here.
Yes, good. Thank you.
Okay. We appreciate that. Down to the advisory board appointments. We've added the one for Hillview. Try to find the tag page in.
I'd like to move the advisory board appointments.
Are you moving them all?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's just kind of go through them. We've got the Hillview Road landfill citizens advisory committee. We've got Brian Eden as an at-large member. Expires 12/31/24. And also we've added Brian Caldwell as a member. I don't know when his expires, but
December 31st, 2023.
December 21st, 2023. And then to the Air Services Board, we've got Ed Levine as an at-large representative, expiring 12/31/24. And Katie Borgella, our Commissioner of Planning, her term expiring December 31st, 2024. I had a question from one of our legislators about the Air Services Board. These go on to, Katrina, these go on to the full legislature for approval?
Yes, I think they're scheduled to go on February 1st.
Okay. Could we get a list of the members of the Air Services Board and when their terms expire?
Yes.
That would be helpful.
Do you want that to go out to all legislators?
Well, certainly to the committee. Just because we've had some questions. Nothing wrong, just wondering about how it functions. That's all. So Dan has moved all of these. I would ask, does anyone need an executive session to discuss any particular person who's being nominated? Okay, I don't see anybody requesting that. So did we get a second for Dan's motion? Seconded by Ann. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. Ann,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
I vote yes. So that's unanimous. Let's take the minutes of December 16th. Someone want to move those? Dan has moved them. Is there a second? Seconded by Ann. Discussion about the minutes. All right, let's vote. Ann,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes, I'll take your word for it on these.
Well, unfortunately, you have to vote by default here. Randy,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That's unanimous. Okay, so that brings us down to starting a discussion. And Amanda, please join us with this discussion if you have comments, since you're going to be on the committee starting next month. And talk about where we want to go. I thought a way we could start, unless someone thinks differently, would be to look at the departments that are reporting to the committee and mention them one by one and see what thoughts we have about them. So from the list that I received, and I think we all received in our red folders on Tuesday, to our committee, the first, of course, is airport. Are there, maybe I should back up just one thing and say, one of the things as chair I'd like to see us be able to do, and we can't do it right now with COVID, but at some point begin to go back to having some tours of departments, which we've done in the past, you know, whether it's highway or airport or facilities or whatever. But so I would say that it would be kind of nice, all the departments to get reports and of course, and then maybe arrange a brief tour and maybe even hold our meeting at the highway department or at the airport or something like that at the same time. So any thoughts about the airport? What we should be doing? And
I was just going to mention, since we have 5 new legislators, I'm thinking they're going to want tours of some of the facilities anyway in departments. So if we can coordinate that all together, then, and all legislators could be invited, I think that would be great. I know I always enjoy and find out a lot of different things as we tour different departments and facilities.
thoughts? Dan?
I would be interested in hearing a little bit about the fuel farm, some kind of evaluation of the fuel farm. If I remember correctly, it was finished about a year ago, give or take. And there were kind of 2 reasons for it. One was safety and convenience, and the other was financial, that we were going to be selling fuel to other agencies. So it'd just be, I think it'd be good to get some kind of evaluation at some point about how that part is working out.
Lee?
Just kind of a general question, is kind of a discussion format here, I guess. Mike, the airport project is it true that represents the largest capital project the county's had to date? And what's the status on it? Is it pretty well completed, or are they still going through various additions?
I think it's pretty well completed. Roxanne's not here this morning to respond, but maybe Lisa can answer that question better.
Yeah, it's pretty well completed, and we've gone out to bond for it. There are a couple of minor updates that need to happen with a bag belt and something else, but by and large, I would say it's not 95% done. And then there are ongoing, infrastructure improvements that are not a part of that one main terminal project that, will continue, but the main terminal project itself is done.
Okay, yeah, and the only question that I've had raised by constituents, and believe it or not, there were quite a few expressing dismay about the loss of the airline to Washington, the direct flight. And I'm hoping we hear a little bit over time as to where the marketing is going to go and where they think that the business ends of things will transpire here in the next year, recovery from COVID and everything.
Yes, that's good. Of course, everything with the flights is always flux, it seems, with COVID. And the loss of the United flights to Dulles is not a great thing for us, that's for sure.
Well, I expect that this will impact the income as well up there if you start losing some of these routes and so on. So something obviously we want to keep an eye on.
That's
But
correct.
that may be a lot of the work that the advisory board works on as well.
Yeah, and Lee, to answer your question, I know that Roxanne recently had a conversation with United together with Cornell, and they indicated that they hoped that this is a temporary suspension of that flight due to the pilot shortage, among other things, that they had to do this in several different airports, and they hope and expect to bring that back online as soon as possible, but it may be several months.
Thank you.
Lisa, I don't know whether you can answer Lee's question about, is this our biggest capital project that we've ever had? Or is it inflated dollars compared to like when we built the hospital and things like that?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I do not know, but it would be an interesting point to research. I could look into it.
It was just kind of a selfish question because I had that honor with a communications project for years. Did you displace me?
Maybe Ralph has an answer.
Well, what is the final number, Lisa, on the airport terminal project? Was it 14, 15 or more than that? Because
I would have to go back and look because there's the, I have different figures in my head, the amount we bonded versus the total, et cetera. So I'll have to
Right,
go
'cause
back.
Lee, yours was, you're talking about your building plus the communications. Yes, that was, what, 20, upwards of 20 million? And was it closer to 30?
About 25 once you put the building
Yeah.
in.
And so
Yeah.
that was the largest unless the airport exceeded that. But
I
then
don't
prior to
think
that, it would have been the library, but we'll see. Yeah, it'd be nice to know.
Well, I know you had a lot of grant money and state initiatives through into that, so it became quite an expansive project. And when it's completed, that's a feather in a lot of caps there for the county, and hopefully that it attracts the airlines back and diversifies where we're able to transport to.
Mhm.
I think the library project was around 6.5 million, as I recall.
Yeah, but then when we did the then the photovoltaics was 1 million, but we had a $500,000 grant.
Yeah,
But yeah, otherwise it would have been, as I said, the project emergency response plus the communications. But yeah, they're costing more and more as the years go by. So
okay, let's go down the list here, bridges and highways. So that's our highway department. I've got one. I don't see any other hands. I'd really like to have us take a look at the covered bridge in Newfield. I don't think we've done that that I can remember in actually quite a few years. We always used to have keepers of the bridge that were a couple of people that were asked to keep track of it for us a little bit in the community. It was a volunteer position. If they're still keepers, we might want to invite them in. We might want to have Jeff give us a little report on it. It's a rare thing to have a covered bridge. And a number of years ago, we put a lot of money into that to strengthen it, to have it go on for us. So that's one thing I'd like to see about bridges is just a review of that historic bridge.
Randy.
Well, I couldn't see your hand because you've got a yellow background. Hi, Randy. Go ahead.
How are you? On the covered bridge, it is important out to the county and the town, obviously. We have a beautification committee there that's been focused on the covered bridge. And we've been doing various projects around there and giving grants to some people to clean up both sides of the covered bridge to give better access to it and visually as well. So if you walk through there, you'll see that there's a lot. We had a real problem with Japanese knotweed all around it, which a woman by the name of Mary Beth, who's been tackling it and has really beat it. It looks like, but you have to stay on that stuff. It's awful stuff. But there is discussion of a problem with a stairwell that's there that gives you access to go kind of underneath the covered bridge to view it. And we did temporary fixes there. We're getting quotes on that. We're seeing where that goes. And we were thinking that maybe one of the opportunities to ask for a grant from the county, from the, I think there's grants going to be for tourism. And there are some capital grants available. I think they're going to be going out in the fall or late summer. And so we were going to get quotes ahead of that. And there are other issues with the covered bridge as far as access and some concerns we have with safety, people walking around it. So I think it'd be a good idea to review that.
That adds to the fact that I think that would be a great thing to put as a goal for us to learn more about the condition and et cetera of the bridge. Other things about bridges and highway. Lee.
I just wanted to thank Ann for forwarding out the paving schedule that was provided from the highway department. It was helpful to me and provided me with some talking points at one of the town board meetings I was at. And similarly, I just kind of wonder, I know you've had several bridge discussions over the past years. It might be helpful to know what types of just what's on the agenda and what replacements and modifications there are out there. I'd be curious, and probably this is right at in the top of Jeff's statistics. How many bridges is the county responsible for, and what kind of maintenance plan is there, just for informational purposes, and to know if, in particular, if there's any major replacements envisioned, or in particular out in my district, because it's a fairly large geographical area, and that's always been a concern out here.
And
So 4 years ago, we could ask for it to be done yearly, actually. Jeff Smith took us out, several of us out to the various projects, bridge projects, including just to look at the covered bridge and talk about that. And we had lunch at the covered bridge market. But so that was really helpful to actually see it. And then as projects were coming through, some of them, we had actually seen them, walked underneath them, whether it was culverts or bridges. So maybe that's something we could make a yearly event too, in addition to getting more information, as Lee was suggesting.
that's a good suggestion, Ann. And as far as highways, I guess it's just our normal interest in where we are with our paving projects, what the condition is, what's our pavement management system telling us about, are we keeping up with things, et cetera. In the spring is when we start getting the complaints in my district about county roads breaking up. Probably the rest of you do too. All right, let's drop down to a new one for our committee. It's the Center for History and Culture, which is our newest building. Arel, you want to make any comments there or about that building? And should we be, I think a number of us took the tour when it was under construction. But there may be things that we need to know about it as it goes along, its governance and other things. Ralph, anything you'd like to add?
Lisa can also chime in. I know that as a beginning of this year, the management of the Center for History and Culture has moved to the History Center. So we are not as involved. We're providing some maintenance support there, but otherwise they're responsible for the cleaning. We used to be responsible for that, so they've assumed those contracts. Garbage disposal, several other ongoing contracts that the county was paying for. Now they're paying for those directly. But we have some involvement, like on the fire alarm systems. Those calls come to us. Elevator as well. So there's a few contracts that we are continuing to manage, and also the HVAC, since we have a computerized system similar to all our other buildings, we can monitor that. But we will not be as involved as we used to be. But we still, have contact with the History Center should things come up on the maintenance side where they need our involvement.
So would the elevator in there be added to our elevator upgrade project?
Well, we looked at all the elevators that we are responsible for, and so the ones that are being done as this elevator modernization are the ones that needed it. And so no, that one, when we purchased the building, we did that assessment as well. So no, at this point, there is no requirement for a modernization for that elevator. Should that be required in the future, that would be the county's cost.
Lisa, any comments you want to make?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, well, that's good. Lee's got his hand up.
Just a quick question, Mike, with them transferring the History Center underneath this committee, is that just facility wise or operations wise as well?
I think it's facilities basically. But I suppose if there's operations issues, that's our baby too. We've got the whole building.
Maybe the better terminology is program. Is it considered, their programs considered part of our purview, or does that fall under another committee?
I'll let Lisa talk about it, but would that be administration?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the
Just curious.
transfer of the relationship has put the Center for History and Culture in charge of collecting all the rents from the tenants and so forth, and in charge of those sort of administrative functions that we were originally in charge of. So, and I don't believe that the programmatic things that occur in the building are covered under any other committee necessarily, nor do I know that they really need to be. That's how I would answer that.
Will Rick's department be auditing those things for the History
Yes.
Center, helping us?
Yes, so ultimately all of the rents will be collected and come through finance, but the county staff is not necessarily in charge of, getting in touch with all of the lessees and connecting with them on a monthly basis to collect those rents. That's a function of the History Center now.
I have Ann, then Amanda.
Just going back to the question about the programming that Lee was asking, if you're asking about the actual programs that the Center for History and Culture do, they're a nonprofit. So I don't believe, I think last I knew, maybe Rich was on the board, Rich John, legislator, but as far as that, I mean, we're supportive of them, and that's why very supportive of them. That's why we helped get the facility for them. But as far as anything else, unless I'm mistaken, we don't govern anything that they do. I mean, if we ever wanted them to come in and talk about what they do, but I don't think we're in charge of anything.
So they're simply on our list because it's a building that falls under the county fold.
Right, that's our building.
Okay. Thank you.
Amanda?
Yeah, thanks. And I was just going to add that I believe the county historian and the historic commission, that is falling back to GO committee. So that's a little bit different, but similar area.
The historian, of course, has offices at the Center for History and Culture.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to Facilities Department. Folks, are you interested in that department? I sure am. They do a lot of work that we don't see. But we always come in, the place is clean, places are clean, they're repaired. If the roofs don't leak, things like that happen. And I always felt facilities in the department, we don't pay as much attention to as we ought to, but they do an awful lot for us. Arel, I know we got to talk about next the Green Fleet and facilities. Maybe we can just kind of wrap those discussions together. I'm sure there's going to be interested in knowing how we're progressing with the Green Initiative.
Yeah, I agree. I think combining would be fine that way. When I report, I can put on both. But now, as far as the attention, from my side, I think you do. We get quite a bit of attention from as far as recognizing the work that we do in supporting all the programs and departments and buildings in the county. So no, from my side, I think that you do. And so I appreciate that. I think all the department heads also recognize and express, gratitude for the work that we do. For the past couple of years, I meet on a monthly basis with the larger departments. And so that's an opportunity to get feedback from them, things that we can do to improve, get an idea how we're doing as far as delivery of services, both on the capital side, but also on the maintenance and the cleaning side. So now I enjoy working here. And one of the reasons I continue working here is because both the legislature, county administration, and the departments have been very supportive of the work that we do.
I think we're going to have to talk a little bit about the condition of the public safety building. I know that's in public safety as well, but we've had some issues up there with the HVAC and other things. We know it's becoming an older building, even though it's not ancient. And so at some point, we're probably going to want to understand more about that facility up there as far as the maintenance headaches that we have.
If Randy.
Okay, we got two hands up. Randy first, then Lee.
Yes, thank you. I'm pretty impressed with the software you're using and the technology for measuring all the buildings and your consumption of utilities, and I was really impressed to see that. One of the things that I think that would be helpful for me would be understand the cost benefits of all the things that the county has done, because you've done a lot. And it'd be good for me to express that to my constituents, to say it's not just money going into this program. There's actually some financial benefit of that. So I'd appreciate at some point, no hurry, seeing some information on that.
Okay. Yes, I would be delighted to share that.
Yeah.
Just where it gets you, Lee, I was just going to say there was some of that in the report you gave us on the green facilities and what the potential savings were, for example. Lee.
Forgive my questions. I'm just trying to get the lay of the land here. And
no question is uncalled for.
Okay, thanks. Well, obviously this committee, part of the goals are going to be to look at the downtown project. And as you mentioned, Mike, it'll probably bounce back here when there's some movement on the public safety building. I'm just wondering with Arel, are there anything that ought to be put on the radar as far as any major projects or upgrades or anything you envision facilities wise in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
And so, yes, there's an ongoing capital project. It's called Facilities Restoration Projects that there's funding this year. It's almost every year. There have been in the past like a 1 or 2 year pause. So we had funding last year and we have funding again this year. And those are to take care of larger capital improvement projects, ones that we really couldn't fund within our operating. So the elevator modernization is one example of the project that will fall under this modernization or restoration type project. So so I have a huge spreadsheet that goes over projects that we need to be looking at for the future years. And sometimes we have to juggle things around because we either have boiler failures or other system failures where we have to make improvements. But yeah, so we are looking at that. As far as the larger projects that would be hard to accommodate even within those restoration capital projects, those are the ones that are identified usually just as a particular building, like the public safety building. So we are currently in the middle of capital project for the public safety building. It's a short-term improvements, and so that project was designed to really hold a, make whatever short-term improvements are necessary until the legislature makes a decision of whether we're going to make major improvements in addition or new building. And so I know that was back before COVID started, we had done a presentation to the committee and public safety as far as options to be considered for those major improvements. Once it was delayed as a result of COVID and concerns of what revenues we may, revenues would go down as a result of that, the legislature approved these short term. So right now, this afternoon, I'm going to be meeting with Labella. They're finalizing the engineering, almost 95% complete. And we are going to be meeting with contractors to discuss the project so that we can discuss the start of work, which would be early summer. So those improvements include things that we've discussed with both the Public Safety Administration, correction staff, Ray Bunce, Derek, of what are needed. And so it ranges from replacing the generator, which is 36 years old. The building is 36 years old, so that all of you know that. And so we've not really done any major improvements in that time. We've done some improvements, roof replacements, boiler replacements, but otherwise within the facility, we have not done that. So we're going to do some flooring replacements, security ceiling replacements, some HVAC control work, some glazing, insulation work, all their detention locking systems. We're going to make upgrades and improvements in PM on those. They're creating 3 holding cells from just 1 holding cell in the correction side. A lot of plumbing improvements. We've had a lot of leaks in the last 10 years, plumbing, so we're upgrading a lot of the copper in the system. Kitchen, doing a lot of work in the kitchen. They have a grease trap that needs to be redone. So the total of the project, which includes both the construction and also the design, is $3.75 million. And so our meeting this afternoon is we're looking at doing this as a turnkey for generator, and the rest of the project is going to be under cooperative procurement, a piggyback contract, New York State, similar to a New York contract. So we're meeting with 3 contractors to share the scope of the work and then have them develop a proposal on what it would cost and then negotiate the cost. We think that would be better than going through the public bidding, which is also another method of procurement. Our concern is that we want a quality contractor, and by doing it through this cooperative procurement, you know who you're dealing with. When you go through the public bidding, it's the low bid, and the low bid is not always the best qualified contractor. And for a project like this, where you have tight deadlines and it affects, I mean, you can't do it off hours or on weekends because it's an occupied facility. We need quality contractors that have done this before so that we can make sure that we stick to a schedule and also within our budget. So that's public safety building, that's short term. I know the discussion, I know that's been talked about discussing really that long-term project. And so that's something I've been involved in for 20 years now, done many studies. And 2 years ago, I said, I'll retire after we do this project, but I'm not sure, if it's going to be more than 5 or 6 years, I may not still be around. The other project, the Center of Government project, is one that I've been involved in 15 years. And so I've done many studies. I think this location that we're going to be closing on next month is the perfect location. So once I have a better idea of when we can actually get in there to start demolishing existing structures, and it's much easier to do the schedule. It used to be 18 months, so now I'm hearing it's 6 months. So that's a year. Currently, I'm in the process of finalizing the request for qualifications for consultants. Up to this point in the programming and the conceptual phases, we've been working with Holt Architects. I think they've done a marvelous job, but the next step would be to do a request for qualifications and to target architect engineering firms to submit proposals for that. So the next time we meet or in the near future, that's what I need to know is when the committee legislature would like us to start the work on this project.
That answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thanks. You've given me kind of some long-term goals there that I think that are a little clearer.
You know, that the center of government's going to take a lot of thought. We may have to get out the space study again and take a look at where we are, especially with possible changes and people working at home and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot on our plate as far as that issue is concerned. Another new one to our committee is MEGA, Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance. That was born in Tompkins County, but it's gotten pretty big. It's designed to save municipalities costs on their electric and gas. At some point, we'll probably need an update on that. Any other thoughts about MEGA? Okay, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, that's the Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council, ITCTC, to use the acronym, which we hate our acronyms, but we all use them, I hate to say. I was appointed again as the representative on the policy committee, and Randy's been appointed as the alternate by the chair of the legislature. So that there are two divisions in the ITCTC. It's the planning division and the policy division. Policy members are normally elected officials from the towns and city and county. And the planning is usually more the technical people from those. It could be people who are on the zoning and planning. It could be engineering folks like from the city. But they usually talk about projects and send forth the resolutions that have to be approved by the policy committee. The council is overseen and administered by the MPO. Aurel Lamaro is our chair, not chair, but the director of the MPO. Sorry? What did I say? Aurel? I said the wrong name. I apologize. Fernando de Aragon. And he is at each meeting. I just want to point out that anybody can join those meetings and listen, and they're very educational. For example, even though I'm only on the policy committee, I very often will go as a guest to the planning committee, because you learn a lot of technical things about what's going on with transportation projects, whether it's highways or bridges. The state people are always there, whether it's about trails or other multimodal kinds of things. So I would be glad to, at some point, have anybody attend those meetings or try to report back. Maybe we could have Fernando come in and give us an update at some point. Anything else? Oh, now the big gorilla, PCAP. Dan.
Mike, if I may, I'd be interested in giving a little snapshot of TCAP from my point of view.
Please.
Thank you. So I listed some things, and there's the good things and the bad things. So I'll start with the good things. The 9-member TCAP board now consists, some of the members of the board are now Lisa Holmes, county administrator, and Laura Lewis, acting mayor of the city of Ithaca. Also, Doug Gwynn, the assistant mayor, if that's the right title. So there's a lot of firepower all of a sudden on the TCAP board. It's like the place to be. So that's really good news, in my opinion. Another really good thing about TCAT is the general manager, Scott Vanderpool. He is doing an excellent job, in my opinion, with a very difficult situation, which I'll get into a little bit. But in terms of day-to-day operations and morale and all the troubles that come up daily, there are these situations that come up daily, he's on it, and we're lucky to have him. Another good thing about TCAT, and this might surprise some people, is that the finances are in excellent shape. And the truth is they're in excellent shape because TCAT received a large amount of federal stimulus money in each of those different laws and acts that passed in the last year, either 4 of them, or a year and a half maybe. TCAT got considerable amounts in each one. Without that money, I think TCAT would be in a lot of trouble financially, but they're not, so that's good news. Another good piece of news is the conversion to the electric fleet is going quite well. So about a year ago, TCAT got its first electric buses, I think 5 or 6, I can't remember, and 6, and they're doing great. Seems to be operating really well. And TCAT has just put in an order for 5 more. And it's going to take a year or more to get those buses. And the reason TCAT did that, even though it's not from grant money, they usually wait for grant money. The reason is because we know that everybody in the country, everybody in the world is going to be ordering tons of electric buses because of the infrastructure bill and because of just the way things are moving. And so that we were told that if we waited, until grant money came through, that then the waiting time would be more like 3 years. So there's, quite a few buses on the way, electric buses on the way, and that's good news. The next item, I wasn't sure whether to call it good or bad, so we'll call it fair. I think this is just a good thing to know, that before the pandemic, TCAT was getting 4 million rides a year. And that's a very impressive number for a little county. In 2020, that number went down to 1 million. So obviously, with the college students gone and everything else that was going on, there were way fewer rides being given. So it's completely understandable. But it's also, if you think about it, it's pretty impressive that even in 2020, that 1 million rides were given. I find that, encouraging. That's a lot of cars not on the road. That's a lot of people getting to where they need to go, and despite what's going on. For 2021, that number jumped to about 2 million. So that's how many rides were given last year. So 4 million pre-pandemic, 2 million last year. I don't know, is that good news or bad news? It's medium news, I guess. Okay, some of the things that I am concerned about, and others at TCAT are concerned about. One is the staff and the employees. They seem like very dedicated people, and there's a lot of good things to say about the staff. However, they are really strained. They are really at their limits of capacity. TCAT has retained its employees really well, but it's having trouble, like everybody else, recruiting new drivers, especially, and mechanics. And so in order to keep the system operating at full capacity, you need to rely on each other. There's mandatory overtime. There's other things. There's administrative staff that step in and do driving sometimes on a daily basis. That is not sustainable. So like a lot of organizations and businesses, unless something really shifts in the employment situation, there may have to be some big changes happening in TCAT in terms of service provided. So just keep an eye on that over the year as the situation progresses. And then the other thing I would say to keep an eye on is this. There were 2 agreements that expired last year, and both were renewed just for 1 year. So both of them will come up again in 2022, and this is something to really keep an eye on. One of them is a memorandum of understanding between TCAT and Cornell, and it doesn't directly affect the county. However, it's a large amount of money, and there's lots of reasons why everything's intertwined. So I won't say more about that here, except it will be something that the committee should check in on. If I remember correctly, it expires June 1st. And last year, the negotiations did not go really well, which is why they agreed to just a one-year extension. And those negotiations have not even started yet for 2022. So keep an eye on that one.
Dan, these are like the bus passes for the students that the Cornell pays for, is that right?
That's correct, students and staff. Right. As students, Cornell students and staff, as they get on the bus, they don't hand over $1.50. They just have a card. And that system we're all have kept track of, and a bulk payment to cover that. That's what I said, thanks. The other one is more directly connected to the county. There's something called the transportation agreement, which is the agreement between the county, the city, and Cornell that created TCAT and that governs how it all works. And I believe that first took place, the first was agreed on in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. And then it was like a 15-year or more agreement that expired last year. And rather than do another long-term agreement, they just did a one-year extension. So that comes up due in October. And each of the partners needs to, in my opinion, needs to make clear whether they want any changes to this document or not going forward. The city and the county have not yet expressed any concerns they had about changes needed. Cornell has expressed the need that from their point of view for some changes, but they haven't said what they are yet. So that's just going to be something to keep an eye on over this year. That's an agreement that all three parties and TCAT itself needs to sign off on, and that expires in October.
Who is in charge of negotiating that?
I mean, that's a really good question. I don't really have a good answer. I think the TCAT board is struggling with that question right now itself.
I think that's something that's going to end up in Lisa's lap to figure out for us or help us with.
Yes, and since Lisa has this dual role now, she has her fingers in all of it. So, I mean, it's just one more thing I wanted to say.
About the building.
Okay, the building. So you may remember a couple of years ago, a lot of talk about that TCAT had outgrown its space and needed a new, bigger building. Well, as I just told you, the number of rides have dropped off dramatically. So that has lessened the immediate need for a larger building. And it's really, really difficult to make any kind of prediction about what's going to happen in the future in terms of bus ridership. So the idea of a larger building is really on hold until we can figure out what the future really looks like. But there is one piece of it that might be going forward. As part of the airport grant that was put in a couple of months ago, there was part of the grant was for a building at the airport, not a huge one, but one that can accommodate, I want to say like an order of 6 buses or something like that. And I can't say a lot about it just because I'm not sure it was all fleshed out about how that would all work. But the idea that TCAT has, it might be some kind of a satellite facility for TCAT where some buses go and some of its operations are centered there, possibly as a stepping stone to a future larger building. That grant is still a few months away from being awarded. So just stand by. Yes, that's another good one to watch this year.
That was a great report, Dan.
Thanks.
We're going to miss you on the TCAT board.
I'm on for one more year.
Are you? Oh, okay. Then we won't miss you. Let's get hands. I think Lee and then Ann. Lee, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Dan. That was very helpful. I know back when the airport project started and the DOT moved and so on, there was the concept of a transportation hub up in that corridor along Warren Road. Is that still a long-term type goal that this committee or the county has had, or just a possibility in the future?
I mean, I would characterize it as a possibility. It's like obviously a good location, it's a good idea. And, you know, pieces of it have already been put in place and pieces of it are in this upcoming grant. So that's my assessment of it. It's sort of in the works. We're always looking for opportunities to plug more into it. How's that sound?
Okay. But not an immediate type situation from what I'm gathering here.
Seems like we're adding on one piece at a time as the opportunity shows up. That's how I would characterize it.
Good way to put it.
And
Thank you. Dan, I always appreciate your updates and especially today, you know, trying to do or not trying, but doing a summary for all of us on what TCAT's been up to and the current state. Can you, I don't know if you want to speak to, I heard there's some reduction or disruption in services because of staffing recently.
So the reduction in services recently are relatively minor. A little bit of trimming of, you know, maybe the number of routes or weekend service or a little bit of evening service. So that's what I would characterize it as relatively minor, but there may be more coming because of, you know, the staffing issues are not getting better, they're getting worse in terms of number of people available.
Okay, and I've taken the bus and I use the app and I find that very helpful to see, you know, what the schedule is and if the buses are on time. So thank you very much.
I remember the other thing I wanted to say. There's a lot of discussion about the transportation agreement. I'm trying to keep this topic alive. We just had a meeting yesterday, a TCAT executive committee meeting. And I realized something as I was speaking about this in recent times is that nobody knows what's in it. I've read it, but it's not fascinating reading. So just yesterday, I started making an easy to read, just list, bullet point list of what's in the agreement, just so people can get a sense of what we're actually talking about. So I will make that available to everybody as soon as I finish it. It should be soon.
okay, anything else we want to talk about TCAP? Sounds like we're going to need to keep our eye on that one. Thanks again, Dan.
Welcome, thank you.
Let's see if we can finish this thing up. I should have mentioned back in airport, initially, we want to keep track of the CDL testing site, which we've been trying to get moving forward.
I think that was part of that airport grant.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think you're right. That's for the new people, if you're not aware of that, we're trying to get a space up there where DMV can, well, first of all, we're drivers of need CDL licenses to train and be tested by DMV, not have to go with their vehicles to Binghamton or Syracuse to get the tests for their licenses. We're trying to have it locally. We think it can be at the airport. We think it can be mutually beneficial and possibly other municipalities may want to contract with us for the use of it. We have utilities. That's always been with F&I. We don't very often have anything. I suppose that kind of can be joined with Mega at this point. But if something comes up that has to do with our utilities, maybe we could say that the transformer issue was a utility issue. If something comes up, we'll just have to deal with it. And then we have weights and measures, which I believe is our smallest department. Aaron is always tries to join us for our meetings. We appreciate that and always willing to tell us about things. I guess the issue that comes up perennially there is, do we have enough staffing? And we may want to keep track of that this year. Other questions about that one? All right. Anything else anybody wants to add about goals? Got a long thing here. Yes.
Just one follow-up, Mike,
Go ahead, Lisa.
to Lee's question about the capital projects. I did have an opportunity to look back at the total cost of the airport terminal project. And it was 38.8 million total, including the fuel farm, which was included in that. The bonding, the part that is going out to bonding at the county's expense is 11.88 million. So I don't know how that compares in real time dollars and cents to your project, Lee, but
You dwarfed it. You're way beyond it.
but you'd have to adjust for inflation and the year that happened. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I thought that once the governor had announced that last large pot of money that it took on gargantuan size, and it has. And I appreciate that last piece, knowing that there's $11 million bond on Tompkins side that we have to be looking at for the long term. But then it helps put it into perspective. So less than a third, I guess, is going to end up being county responsibility from a taxpayer standpoint. Does that sound right?
that's right. 11.88,
Out of 38 million.
38.8. Yep.
Randy.
Yes, thank you. I apologize. I'm sure that you folks have probably looked at this a lot. Basically, how much space you actually need for the staff, and which is why you're building down on Tioga Street and whatnot. But life has changed quite a bit. And if you've done a study on this or not, and I was reading an article about remote workers now and how that number's increased a lot. I think it went from 1 in 50 to 1 in 10 are remote. And I don't know if that's something that's going to continue for the county, or if that's going to be part of a study that you may be doing or have done. But my general, one of the big questions when I went out and I don't know if Ann heard the same kind of questions, constituents to see it's a lot of money building buildings, and they don't really understand the value of that. So I think that maybe a goal would be to explain to people the value of that. But I also, and I'm sure it's complex because you're going to be gaining buildings, getting rid of buildings, updating buildings, they'll be much more energy efficient. And some of those buildings you're replacing, I think, are, especially the assessment office, is probably pretty old and past its useful life, maybe. But when I look at buildings, I look at, and I have facilities background, 14 years of doing that. I know that when you build a building, it costs money after you build it. So you've got maintenance, you've got all those costs associated with that. So I think it would just be helpful for me, and when I speak to constituents, to explain them there really is value here. The other side of that is I think that in my district, we have a school district that is underutilized. We did a study when I was on the school board there that it could hold 1,200 kids. We have 750, and they built 2 new buildings since then. So, and it's a very nice campus. I mean, it's well maintained, one of the better maintained school districts because they got so much state funding when projects were done. At one time, it was 96%. You're getting reimbursed from the state on building projects. So people like to build when it doesn't cost them any money. But I wonder if those buildings the county can't use or have satellite offices, and I know this is maybe not this arena, to reach closer to the people and use the buildings that already exist. And we already have social workers in the schools, and they're state employees, basically. And I think there's some synergies there that aren't being used. So I just wanted to, I don't know how that's a goal, but it would be very helpful to explain to people the value of what we're doing. So that's it.
Those are also some great thoughts, Randy, and certainly we do have space, time to time needs in the rural areas. I would think of social services or health department or others that do clinics and things like that out in the rural areas. So I think that is a great question.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? I want to mention that Amy Hendricks has been here with us for the meeting. And Amy, is there anything you want to add? Because I think she's been with us.
I am here. I don't have anything to add in, but thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for being with us. Anything else for the good of the order this morning? Are we ready to adjourn?
Ann's got a hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't see Ann's hand. Go ahead, Ann.
I don't necessarily want to say for next meeting. I know, with administration, staffing time, facilities time. But maybe I'm just thinking sooner to give a history, to go over, where, to Randy's point about, why we're looking at building a new building. But not to bring out all the information that we've had go by in the last couple of years, but maybe just to start with a conversation to talk about that, just so that the new folks are on the same page with us as far as information and when we're looking at new goals, I do like that idea of trying to figure out how to kind of package that information, whether it's an op-ed or something, because the optics are important to present to the community. And I think for us to have talking points to go out there, because there's a lot of history that's gone into this about when we looked at renovating a certain building, the old jail, some of the departments that are getting kicked out of the courthouse. So just to go over some of that, I know there's other factors too, but just kind of have a discussion on that. I was thinking in the next meeting or two, or whenever you decide that's appropriate, Mike.
Thank you, Ann. That's well said. Anyone else?
Just thank you, Mike, for the conversation discussion. You've put a lot of things into perspective and given me some pretty good background today. And I appreciate the length of time you spent here. It's been helpful to me as a newcomer.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I'm going to ask Katrina if she could distill some of this down into some bullets for us that we can put for the next agenda. We've talked about a lot of stuff here, but maybe she can distill it and then we can edit it. Okay, are we ready to adjourn? Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina.